Hello everyone, my name is Hendo. Today we're going to look at remanufacturing an HP Q2612A, otherwise known as an HP 12A LaserJet cartridge. This cartridge is used in the HP LaserJet 1010 to 1022 series, as well as several multi-function units based on the same engine. This particular cartridge I have in my hand is a Virgin Core HP OEM cartridge. I've already tested the cartridge, and based on my testing, I realized that the components inside this cartridge can't be reused. The PCR is showing signs of pinholing onto the drum, and the drum is also showing signs of pinholing. Also, I see wear on the drum in this section that has taken off the CTL layer of the drum, which means to me a good chance the wiper blade here is damaged as well, probably because the waste hopper is overpacked with toner and is now pressing against the actual drum unit itself. It may not be the case, but it's enough for me not to reuse the wiper blade. On the other end, I don't see the same problem at all. I see a small line being developed, but this wouldn't mean that the drum couldn't be reused for those that chose to reuse it, other than the fact this drum is pinholing. On top of that, this cartridge here's density was at 79 based on my equipment, and that's in line with a spent OEM cartridge. Means the mag sleeve's probably in reusable condition. Sometimes I do reuse mag sleeves on cartridges that have yields less than 3,500 pages. Makes sense. If the mag sleeve's in good condition and it can be reused, then you can reuse it. In this case here, and in every case when I do a 12A, I still take the 12A mag sleeve out and replace it with an aftermarket one, and I may reuse that mag sleeve down the road, another 12A. But in this particular build, we're going to remove everything and replace everything. Okay, so we're going to get started here. Basically, the first thing we want to do is remove the cartridge spring. This is a tension spring that's holding the two halves together to allow it to print correctly. That spring is located right here. And pay particular attention to its orientation. You notice it spirals around, and then the tail end of the spring goes towards the back of the cartridge here and goes down up to this section. Of course, it could be rotated where this tail end is touching the drum, but that's not where you want it. You want it exactly the way it is now. One of the concerns here of removing this spring is not damaging this end, because that's the end you're going to pry it off of. If you break this piece of plastic off the cartridge, there is ways to correct the cartridge, but this spring will no longer be usable. So I'm going to remove that right now. I use basically this tool to remove it, and I just get a hold of one end of it. Put my finger over top of the spring on this end so it doesn't shoot off, then pick this end off. Put it in my tray there. The next thing I do is remove the two screws on this end. That allows me to remove this plate. I'm going to do that now. Okay, the plate's removed. I want to maintain the cartridge in this orientation or in this orientation, depending on whether you're right or left-handed, so that the waste hopper itself doesn't allow any toner to spill out while I'm remanufacturing and turn out to be very messy. So I'm going to remove the drum. All I basically do is take this piece of plastic, sort of bend it a bit while my finger is still on the drum. So it works like this. And then I just take it, twist it off the cartridge. This I dispose of in my recycling bin down here. Okay, inside here we see a bit of toner. We see the, if you can see it, the PCR, the mag sleeve, which looks in excellent condition there, and of course the doctor blade right here. We're going to remove the PCR by grabbing it with a pair of pliers at this end. and lifting it out, then using my fingers to pull the rest of it out. Okay? I take a paper towel. This PCR is not usable, but if it were, or I was going to reuse it, I would take a paper towel with a facial swab with some alcohol on it and clean both posts. This case here, I can already tell why I was having issues with the PCR. This is one of the newer HP 12A PCRs that don't have the overhang. Usually these ones, or at least all the ones I run into, I dispose of. Some of them have an overhang here, and you can skin the overhanged PCRs. You can remove the outer layer of the PCR and reuse the PCR. In this case here, this PCR is no good. I'm going to dispose of it in the recycling bin. Okay, so now we're at a stage where we have to remove the pins inside the cartridge. The pins are basically located on the outside of the cartridge, right here, and right here. They correspond to the inside. They're directly inside from that position. So if you look inside here, you'll see one pin right there, and one pin, if you can see it properly, right here. I'm going to use a tool. This tool, which I made myself, is just an L hook tool that I cut the tip off of to make it a little bit easier to push these pins out. I'm going to push the pin out right now. I'm going to do it from the inside. You want to be careful, in this case, not to damage the wiper blade or the recovery blade or the mag sleeve on this side. So I'm just going to push this one pin out. Takes a little bit of pressure to put on it. You have to really aim for it and push it out. That's what it looks like when it's out. Now I'm going to flip it around and push the other pin out. And that's what that pin looks like when it's out. Okay. I'm going to use a pair of pliers to remove it. Okay. Going to clean the table up a touch. I don't really like toner on my table. I usually vacuum it or wipe it down. I'm going to turn the cartridge. As I was saying before, the orientation is important to keep it up like this, drum side facing up. I'm going to turn it so it's flat on the weight side, like this. And now remove the top cartridge, or I should say the hopper side. That's the hopper side there. I'm going to put it aside for now. And I'm going to continue working on the waist side. I work on one side at a time. So I'm going to remove on the waist side the shutter. This is the shutter here. And of course, there's a shutter spring that allows it to move.